Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside Life. This is the Youth Enlightenment and Empowerment Program working towards youth and presidency to get good governance in the near future for a better Nigeria. Now, let's take it back to 1993. Omoyele Sowore, when he was the Student Union of Lagos State University, and it was IBB regime then. This man, this young boy back then, has been fighting for democracy for Nigeria for so many years up till date. And we see some celebrity activists coming out now to portray themselves and so many other people who takes people's words and use them for money. Nigeria youth, take a look at the power of the youth back then, the student union power back then, how united students were. I need you to listen to this analysis about what Sowore has been doing for Nigeria. And until you people start to follow him and let him lead the thread, I don't see anything good coming out of Nigeria. It's not go easy for Nigeria, and I know why, because Sowore don't try for Nigeria back then. Where the Peter Obi did that time, we Sowore really fight for democracy for Nigeria. There are so many people who are not in the picture. He has been fighting for a better Nigeria up to date. And I don't want to follow him to see the future, which is better. Nigerians, I call you people to respect Sowore. First of all, I need you to listen to this analysis of what he has done for Nigeria. Then I leave the rest for you people to judge. Now, inside life day. Now, inside life, you see the good, the bad, and the ugly. Listen and learn. This is Inside Life. For now, please watch this video or listen to this analysis. Thank you.
Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's jump straight in. We're heading back to Nigeria, 1993.
A really critical year.
Absolutely. Picture this. What many called the freest, fairest election in Nigeria's history. M.K.O. Abiola looked set to win.
Yeah, that was the widespread belief.
And then, bam, annulled. Just like that. So today, we want to unpack the role of a young student activist back then, Omoyele Sowore. How did he fit into this?
Well, you really have to understand the immediate context. It wasn't just a procedural hiccup.
Right.
The military regime, led by General Ibrahim Babangida, deliberately invalidated the results.
Babangida himself had set up the election, hadn't he?
Exactly. He'd promised this transition to civilian rule, repeatedly, actually, so the annulment felt like a massive betrayal. He had this huge groundswell of popular support for the election result clashing directly with military power. It just ignited everything.
So the regime basically lit the fuse. And Sowore, he was president of the University of Lagos Students' Union then in 93. That position must have been key.
Oh, absolutely pivotal. It wasn't just a title. It gave him a structure, a network. What our sources show is pretty fascinating, actually.
Yeah.
He didn't just give speeches. He used this almost like an underground railroad of student leaders across different universities.
Really? How did they manage that?
Well, lots of secret meetings, apparently even coded messages sometimes, to coordinate without tipping off the military.
Wow.
Considering the level of surveillance back then, that's pretty sophisticated stuff for student activists.
Yeah.
It went beyond just protesting. It was real clandestine organizing.
Incredible courage there. So what was the main message? What were they actually demanding in these demonstrations?
It was crystal clear. No ambiguity. They wanted democracy restored now.
Okay.
And specifically, recognize Abiola's win. Recognize the mandate that people had given.
So not just anger, but a very specific political demand.
Exactly. It showed a unified voice, mainly from the youth, saying, respect the vote. This is about fundamental justice.
And you mentioned coordination. These weren't just isolated campus protests, were they? Our sources talk about something much bigger.
That's right. Nationwide. Think about that challenge.
Yeah, I mean, coordinating that kind of action across Nigeria.
Especially against a military regime actively cracking down.
Right.
Communication was tough, dangerous. Sources talk about brutal responses, beatings, threats of live rounds, mass arrests. Sowore himself, we hear, was constantly moving, dodging patrols, changing safe houses almost nightly.
Just incredible pressure.
Yet somehow, these networks, often underground, kept the pressure on. That sustained defiance, facing those odds. It tells you a lot about their belief in the cause.
It really does, the sheer guts involved. So thinking long term, what did this period, this intense activism in 93 mean for Sowore going forward?
That's a really important thread, isn't it? This wasn't just, a one-off student protest phase for him.
Right, it clearly wasn't.
Our sources really confirm this was the beginning, the absolute starting point for his lifelong work. You see the roots of his continued fight for democracy, for press freedom, for good governance in Nigeria right here in 1993. It really forged his path.
So let's bring this home for you, the listener. In just these few minutes, we've touched on a really dramatic, pivotal moment in Nigerian history.
Yeah.
And we've seen it through the lens of one young person's courage and action back then. It really underscores how individual efforts, especially youth efforts, can matter hugely, even against overwhelming state power.
And maybe that's the thought to leave you with. How can one act of defiance, by young people reacting to something like an annulled election?
Yeah.
How can that plant the seeds for a whole lifetime dedicated to democratic ideals? What does Sowore's story, starting back then, tell us about the power, the persistence of civil society and youth movements in actually shaping where a nation goes, even when things look incredibly bleak?
Very soon, it will soon be 30 minutes. And when it is 30 minutes, we are going to make sure that we bring down Lagos and government.